Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode 90 of the Think Big podcast. As you can see, we are finally hanging out upstairs in the podcast studio. My co hosts are going to be coming on in a little bit, but we got to get the show started. We get started every single Tuesday at 5 p.m. I'm excited about tonight's episode. We're going to be talking about the 4 levels of value. This is going to be one of my favorite episodes because this is something that I came back to recently here in my business that I recognized I needed to review as I'm getting ready for a transition, right? We're stepping into quarter 3, locking in on some new things. And so it's going to be a total whiteboard session. But before we get started, just got to give a huge shout out to Andrew Linder, rocking the Make Somebody Smile t-shirt. Andrew was the guy that I did the Run Across America with, if you guys don't know. But yeah, tonight we're going to go ahead and jumping right into it. So guys, I wanna break this down. Ultimately, what ends up happening is entrepreneurs step into business to predominantly make money. You want to get into starting a business, whether it's real estate, whether it's drop shipping, whether it's e-com, whatever it may be. You do this all for the sake of you want to be able to make some cash. And if you don't understand this, you're going to be capped at your earning capacity. So what's going on, Sam? You're going to be capped at your earning capacity. So we're going to go ahead and jump into it. I'm just going to figure out if I want to introduce Sam before I start jumping into it. What's going on, bro?
You sure as hell do.
How you feeling, dude?
I'm good. I'm so sorry, guys. I literally could not figure out StreamYard for the life of me. This is why I don't set these things up, but I'm getting better. So, dude, I'm excited. 4 levels of value. I'm super freaking excited. Fill me in. Where are we at right now?
Before, I'm glad you just jumped on because you just also reminded me I did not click go live on Instagram. So let me just get that clicked. We are now streaming live on IG as well. So guys, if you're joining in on IG, just comment the word YouTube and you'll get a link sent over to you that will bring you to the YouTube channel. So you can hang out and comment here where we can actually see your comments and share them on the screen. I can't do that through StreamYard, but we can do that through YouTube. So come over to the YouTube channel. So yeah, we're going to be jumping into it. I'm whiteboarding today, one of my favorite things in the world to do because I like to be able to show the process. And so as I go through these 4 levels of value, the reason you want to pay attention to this is because if you don't understand this, you might find that you're working your ass off, you're working your guts out to produce a certain level of income. But unfortunately, because you're working on the wrong level of value, you're going to be capped. Each level of value actually has a ceiling on its earning potential, and not being aware of this, right? Like ignorance is not bliss in this case. Ignorance in this case is poverty. And so we want to pay down your ignorance debt, and we want to be able to show you ultimately what these value chains and value ladders and ultimately this value staircase looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and pop up on my screen the whiteboard. And Sam, can you tell me, are you able to see the whiteboard?
Yes, I'm seeing it now.
Booyah. Okay, perfect. Okay, I love whiteboard sessions.
Dude, I was literally just thinking like 2 minutes ago, I'm like, we should call these whiteboards. I don't know. We should call them something because whiteboard sessions are the best.
They're like literally my favorite. And so let's go ahead and get our pen going. I want to use a thicker piece of pen. So let's go ahead and pop that up. And let's draw this out. I want people to understand this. So when we're looking at how anything in life works, it's an ascension, right? There's a start at a lower point and we get to go up to a higher point. And I'm going to draw this ladder here, this staircase, this ascension, if you will. And this is something I learned from a really amazing mentor of mine, somebody who's doing 8 figures in business. He taught me this a few years ago. And it's funny, sometimes you get these lessons in life that you're taught at a certain period and a certain season. It's not useful in the season you're in, but later on, these lessons come back to you. And this was one of the lessons that came back to me. And he taught that, Marlon, at the lowest level of value, right? When you go into the marketplace, first off, you only make money for exchanging value. And he said at the lowest level of value in the marketplace, you have what we refer to as implementation. And guys, I'm going to spell words wrong, so just keep that in mind. I'm like absolutely going to spell things wrong, and you're going to be like, that does not say implementation. Today, it does. And so at the lowest level of value, you have implementation. And this is actually going out and doing work. Imagine you worked at McDonald's. This is the equivalent of being the fry cook or being the burger flipper or being the janitor. At this level of value, you are giving value to the marketplace. Do not get it twisted. When I go to a restaurant, the server is providing value. The bartender is providing value. The chef is providing value. However, at this level of value, your earning potential is minimum wage to top end 80K, right? Like that's your ceiling and your floor. Your floor is minimum wage and your ceiling is $80,000 a year. Just about, right? Are there exceptions to this? Yes, but it doesn't stray far from these numbers. And here, the problem is what you're working with and what you're providing and what you're leveraging is this. It's muscle. It's your physical body. It's you actually doing the work and time. And the issue with this is there's a limit on time, right? Like there's only 24 hours in a day and there's only one of you. And so you're capped. This is why your earning potential is capped. It's because you're working with resources that aren't highly leverageable, right? Like you can only perform, you can only put so much output at this level when you're physically using your body to work. And when you're capped by time, you can only ever possibly earn so much. So we want to step it up to the next level. And when we look at the next level, what are you looking at here? You're looking at what we refer to as unification. And again, that is not how you spell unification, but doesn't matter. What's up, Sam?
Sorry, Mr. Johnson. I have a question for you, sir. Please. At this level, and I think it'd be really helpful at this level, and in the next few levels, I want to address this. At the level of implementation, right? And we're going to hit into unification too. At implementation, do you get to decide how much money you make? Like at the end of the day, do you really get to control, your yearly income, your annual income? Is that up to you?
It's up to you as long as you're okay with someone else telling you what that number is. So no, it's not.
As long as you sign off on your boss signing off on it, there you go. Okay, good. I just checking in.
Yeah. So it's funny though, and we're gonna come back and we're gonna dive deeper into all of these because again, after we do this, I'm actually gonna want to apply this to real estate because a lot of our viewers are real estate specific, and so I want to go through the whole value chain. I'm going to take maybe 5 minutes to go through it, and then we're going to come back and swing it around and see how it applies to our listeners, to our audience. And so at the level of unification, what we have is what's cool is you have a bit of a higher ceiling here. On this next level of value, a person can earn 40K to 250K, right? Like it's typically you're going to find the floor is going to be $40,000 and the ceiling is going to be $250,000. And what a person here is utilizing, Sam, is they're utilizing their ability to manage people. Also, shout out to Maurice. I just saw Maurice in the chat. His birthday's coming up on the 20th. What up, Maurice? Unification, your ability, the skill you have is the management of people and multiplying this by the amount of people you actually manage, right? Your ability to manage people and the amount of people you can manage is effectively how you earn more. So if I'm talking to the same McDonald's employee and they're like, man, I want to make more. Awesome. Let's promote you to the manager of McDonald's. The manager of McDonald's is now overseeing the fry cook, is overseeing the burger flipper, is overseeing the cashier, is overseeing the janitor, is overseeing 5 different people. So effectively, that person, because of unification, they can get these 5 individuals working in the same direction, working towards the same mission, is more valuable to the marketplace, but still not that valuable, right? If you want to be stuck at only making $250,000 a year, which I doubt that that's all you want to make in this world where we're able to make so much more, you are going to be wanting to get out of the unification value level. But this is where we have the 2 lowest levels of value. Really, wealth isn't created on these levels. Wealth doesn't start getting created until we cross this level. And we start to step up into, I'm going to give it a new color, communication. And this is something Sam and I talk about pretty regularly. At this level of value, right, you're looking at on the low end, you're earning 100K. On the high end, you're earning 100 million. And that's not an exaggeration. This is when you're talking about communication, what are you leveraging? I'm going to tell you something. You're leveraging something that you all already have access to. It's the thing you see moving on my face. It's your mouth. It's your ability to speak. When you learn communication at a high level. And people communicate already. It's just, do you learn how to use it at a higher level? When you learn how to communicate at a higher level, your ability to earn increases drastically, exponentially. Because when we look at that low level of 100K, what is that? That's a car salesman, right? Like that's someone that goes out and they sell, they earn on a commission. But when you look at 100 million, like Marlon, who's making $100 million by communication? Actors, actresses, singers, right? Because what's so powerful about communication? Let's understand this. Communication is the ability to influence other people. It's the ability to drive and direct audiences. That ability of being able to influence people, and we're not talking if management was more valuable than you as a single person implementing, because you can get 5 people moving in the same direction. What happens when you could get 500 people moving in the same direction, 5,000 people moving in the same direction, 500,000 people to all feel the same thing at the same time and move in unison? That person is more powerful. That person is more valuable. Your ability to communicate is where wealth begins. And if you can understand this, you're going to start to look at what are you doing in your business? What should you be doing in your business? You might be working on implementation like crazy, trying to earn $1 million. And it's like, dude, you're working in the wrong value system. And I'm going to show people this final one, Sam, and then we're going to bring it back and talk about how this correlates to real estate. At the final value, you have imagination. Right. And I like to say it's imagination or innovation, right? Like Sam, you'd probably prefer the word innovation. I'm going to use the word imagination because I like the word imagination. And here you're looking at on the low end, 1 million, on the high end, 1 trillion with a T. Because what is imagination? What is innovation? This is effectively when you bring something to the marketplace that fundamentally changes the way people live and operate day to day. Example of this, let's think of Steve Jobs and the iPhone. That has fundamentally changed the way we operate. Apple is one of the largest companies on planet freaking Earth. Innovation, Jeff Bezos and the way we shop online with Amazon has fundamentally changed the way we live day to day. Google. I mean, literally, Google as a company has become a verb. If you don't know something, what do? You Google it.
Right. That's so baller, isn't it? Isn't it? That your company name has become more than just a net. It's become a verb. Dude, and I just Googled this. The automobile market, right, which is rapidly changing. A lot of people feel it's on this gigantic precipice of like hitting this skyrocketing thing because of a lot of stuff that's going on in the electric car industry. But the automobile market is expected to be at 3.97 trillion by 2030. And then you know what's crazy about that? Compared to Amazon, compared to Google, compared to Apple, it's not like a code. It is physical products at a high level. And then what's crazy is that in that 3.97 trillion in the next, couple of years, the reality is it's dominated by Ford and then Tesla and then some of these other, and they each have so much market share. So you're absolutely right. Like, dude, that's insane. But new life goal for all of us is for us all to become verbs. Like, that's it.
Dude, I mean, how sick would it be when people are just like, yo, go Sam it, go sing it. Go Sam, sing it.
Dude, can you imagine just like going on a date? Hey man, go Marlon Johnson that date tonight. That's terrible. Okay, I'm done.
Dude. But like this is effectively the value, right? These are the 4 levels of value. And it's important to understand this because at each level of value, you recognize there are different skills. And it's not that like implementation is bad, right? Like understand this implementation for the audience. It's not that implementation is bad. It's just, is it in alignment with your financial goals? If you're looking to earn $1 million, you trying to be the implementer, you trying to do it all on your own, effectively, you just will not be able to get there. Now, could you possibly get around this by saying, well, I'm going to stick to the implementation level and then I'm going to simply invest with other people and maybe put my money to work and have my money work for me on another level? The answer is yes. But even then, I would say there you're using communication and imagination in order to get your money into those investment vehicles. And so the value ladder, the value chain stands true. And so I want to look at this now from a standpoint of real estate. right? And Sam, I would love your help with this on, if we're looking at implementation where a person is effectively using themselves, their muscle and their time, what's this look like inside of our world in real estate? Like, what do we typically see people doing when they're at the implementation level of value? What's their day-to-day look like, or what sort of operations are they doing?
So the most common avatar that is new to the industry right now, thanks to YouTube University, is always going to be under the umbrella of wholesale. It's going to be wholesalers, but specifically, right? People typically don't start as like disposition wholesalers. They start off as acquisition, meaning like they're going to cold call sellers. They're going to do lead management. So it's going to be a lot of the frontline on the phones wholesale is your tried and true entry level implementer in this industry.
Right. I love that. I agree with you wholeheartedly. So like things like your lead managers, your cold callers, right? Like the people that are doing the acquisitions directly, there's independent salary, right? Even if you own your own business and you're like, well, my business does 7 figures. Yes, but how much of that do you see as your own employee, as an employee to your actual business? How much of that, what's your actual take home? And typically it's going to live inside of this range. If you're running a $500,000 wholesale operation, odds are after marketing, after management, after paying out whatever you need to pay out, you're only taking home a fraction of what you're making as a gross income. So your salary to yourself, if you were to replace yourself and hire that person in the actual job, is going to be around that minimum wage to $80,000 per year. So I love that. So what do we see then as we level up inside of real estate as our unification? Like who's in the unification mode, or what's that look like in a real estate investment transition or journey?
So I like this. I'm gonna, for the purposes of staying within like the same kind of subdomain, very often this is where like wholesale companies will get to. So you can, whether you're kind of like, I wouldn't call you a solopreneur, but very often like with a solopreneur, they're gonna be they call themselves business owners, but the reality is the more accurate term is going to be like a sales director or a sales manager. This is where most wholesalers truly kind of live and breathe, because we've done so many episodes on the evolution of this industry and what it takes. But the reality is most people will get stuck here. They may have a few callers. They may have a lead manager of their own. They may bring in a TC, but at the end of the day, they're typically going to be, stuck in a management directorial type of kind of spy here. And that's very often going to be in the wholesale space. I see people get stuck there more than in lending, more than in buy and hold, more than in flipping. I see people get stuck right there with wholesale.
Yeah, I agree with you, right? This is, if anything, this position is where what it feels like is you are a slave to your business. You've got a lot going on. Your business has a lot of leads. It's got a lot of opportunities. It's got a lot of moving parts. But ultimately, because you haven't mastered the art of communication and delegation, you are unable to grow outside of being a part of being a necessary, crucial cog in your own wheel. Right? Like you become so necessary to your own business that if you walk away, the business stops to operate as efficiently as it is currently operating. But it requires you to learn a new skill. It requires you to be able to communicate at a higher level, because ultimately that true delegation, that true management, and this is something that you do so well, Sam, that empowering other people to build out the business, empowering your leadership team comes as a result of you being able to effectively communicate the vision to them and be able to communicate and listen to them to understand really what is it that this person needs in order to grow the business, in order to run the business, in order to create the business so that the business can create the life you desire. Is that a
Dude, it's so. I just want to hit on this, guys. Like on my whiteboard downstairs, that is gigantic whiteboard for literally a whole season. I do this thing where like I write like a big thematic mantra, and it's huge, it's unavoidable, and it sits there for as long as I need to be in that season because I can see it every single day. It's a reminder to me that this is the theme of now. And that theme, bro, it literally, you know this, Jerry Norton says this, Cody Barton says this, I love this. And it's that something to the effect of your income will never outpace your level of self-development, something to that effect, right? And the reality is, guys, like, let's forget about the imagination bucket, right? Where you become gajillionaires, right? And let's just stick with 100K to 100 million, like, which is really massive, right? I went through a season over the last year and a half where I had to understand that my ability to scale my business actually got to a point where it didn't even have to do with my level of self-development inherently. It had to do, very honestly, with my ability to communicate with my people. And when I say that, I mean with my directors, my partners, my managers. It wasn't about how well can I communicate to my followers or my friends or on stage with all these people. How well can I communicate to my employees? That is huge. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, as someone who's done it, that right there, that implementation. See where he says the word stuck, and right above there's a freaking ceiling, is because most wholesalers never figure out how to properly communicate to their hires and to their directors. That is pound for pound. I would say that right there, if I had to put my money on something, on why people can't grow their businesses and get to that communication value stage, it's that thing right there. So love that. Sorry. Back to you, Marlon.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you. And effectively, like the communication chain is where I want to hang out the most. And selfishly, it's because this is the place where I find myself in. It's the skill that I'm currently working on the absolute most. And it's the skill that has always eluded me, which is why in the past I've been stuck when I have been stuck. It's been a result of communication. It's been a result of it wasn't not having the right resources. I'd argue that everybody has the resources now. Right. The Think Big podcast gives people information. The internet gives people access. You have all the resources you need. So what's the missing piece? I'd argue that it's your ability to communicate. It's your ability to communicate with others, and it's your ability to communicate with yourself. Because effectively, when we look at this communication now, and we're looking at it inside of real estate, this is when you start to finally look like an owner. This is when you're able to come to your team and describe and define, right? You're able to define success, which I would argue is your most useful, highly leveraged ability to your team as the owner. It's to be able to come back to them and clearly define success and have success so well thought out and so well defined that when they ask you for the definition of success again tomorrow, because I know you already told them once, but they need to be reminded, it's not going to change on them because you weren't fickle with your answer. You were methodical with your answer. You were clear with your answer. It was well intended, well thought out, and well communicated that it can stay, and it could be in writing. And a year from now, you would come back and still be happy with it. In fact, a year from now, you should come back and it should be accomplished, and they should be ready for the next definition. And this piece right there is, I would argue, like your ability to define success and get everybody moving in the same direction is the most valuable thing you can learn, or up there with the most valuable thing you can learn.
Marlon, real quick, because I see so many people, right? They try to get into the communication level, the owner level, right? These are people. I call this a solopreneur's curse, right? They may have hired one person or two people, and like they try it, and then they have a season where they're like, we're business owners, and then like a director quits, and then their business goes to hell, right? And this is happening right now, guys. Like a lot of people don't realize this. I have a good friend who is a 7-figure earner consistently, has done hundreds and hundreds of transactions, way more than me. This person actually showed me the ropes a lot in this industry. And this person, because they over-indexed, not in developing themselves enough, but they over-indexed in barely just getting out of the unification stage. They had 2 or 3 people abruptly quit, tanking their entire business, completely stopped the business. And like they're literally going to fall out of the industry now and jump to a different business model. And it's because they didn't critically figure this one thing out. And I love doing pattern recognition. I think pattern recognition is one of the greatest skill sets you can achieve, is be able to see what works and what doesn't. And also, it's like a lot of people like, oh, cool, Marlon succeeding, Sam succeeding, whoever's succeeding. Like, let's look at what they're all doing, but also look at what they're not doing, because that's the stuff that doesn't get highlighted enough. And that's like the secret sauce right there. And so, Marlon, I think a lot of people, they hear us talk about defining success, okay? And very often what they do is they define outcomes. They tell their team, this is the outcome that I want, right? And that's why when you hire a closer, you say, hey, I want you to be able to like get this seller to be able to sign on the dotted line. You are now defining what? An outcome. I think one thing that they forget, and this in my speculative nature kind of makes me think this is the reason they don't get the success, is they spend too much time defining the outcome but not pairing it equally with defining the process that yields the outcome. I think defining success is so critical, but I'm starting to, in my own journey, I'm starting to understand myself as a business owner. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's just me. I'd love to hear your take on this, Marlon, but I'm starting to find that it's actually almost equally, if not more important, to define the process, hammer the process. And then that way, what ends up happening is you might even inverse the two a little bit, where if you hammer away the process, just the repetitive, boring shit over and over and over again, the success is a byproduct. I don't know. That's just where I'm at. What do you think about that?
I would agree with you. The reason I would agree with you is because I think you and I think very similar, and which is in this case that we've got inputs, and we got outputs, and of the two, inputs are greater because inputs create outputs. Having the proper inputs create the proper output that you're looking for. And so if we get obsessed with, well, what are the inputs? And effectively, in this case, what is the process? What is the behavior? What is the thing I need you to do over and over and over? And if you only ever did those things and you never even worried about the output, you didn't even know what the output is supposed to be, the output would still get created. And effectively, this is what happens with large organizations, right? You have the employees at Amazon have no stinking clue what's going on in Jeff Bezos' mind in its entirety. However, they are hyper aware of what they need to do in order to properly do their job at their level. And because you got all these different pieces that are clear about what their inputs are and they understand that with absolute certainty, the pieces work together, and all the pieces working together create a larger than life output. Now, again, Bezos needed to be able to communicate all these things to his leadership team, to himself, and things of that nature. But to the people, being able to, and they do have to have a clear direction on where the finish line is going to be. But then what's their contribution to it? Right. And again, this is something, I'm not perfect at this. Like, I want to let people know I still screw this up every day of my life. I'm actively getting better, actively learning this every single day of my life. But inputs are greater than outputs.
Wow. I want to hammer this away one more time because I think this is so critical. Marlon, in this industry, whether you're a flipper or a lender or a wholesaler, whoever the hell you are, can you, as a business owner, guarantee any outcome at all? Is that a controllable factor? Can you guarantee any outcome at the end of the day?
You can guarantee that you're going to die one day.
That's it, right?
That's it.
Death, taxes. I mean, that's just it. Death and taxes, effectively.
Seriously.
The reality is you can't guarantee an output. You can't guarantee. And this is what I want people to start doing, because I just said this, so I catch myself saying this. I want people to differentiate. Success doesn't always have to mean the output, right? I think a lot of people, they hear success, man, they think the end of the road. They think, oh, success equals output. Guys, success should be, in my opinion, should be to your team members, your employees, the inputs. What does the success look like? It's not a $15,000 assignment fee, because they have no damn clue on how to get a $15,000 assignment fee. But if they come to my organization, I say, hey, success looks like you making 100 dials a day and having 15 valuable conversations with agents, sellers, wholesale, whoever. And we do that enough times over and over and over again. And then the next person in the line, let's just say it's like a lead or a closer or a TC, a dispo person, it's like success for you looks like putting a deal in front of at least 5 to 10 VIP buyers a day and pitching the deal to them. See how at no point am I saying success equals the $15,000 check. Success doesn't equal that, because when you start doing that, you start trying to hold people accountable to these almost ethereal things that they can't force. There's too much out of their control to be able to guarantee a $15,000 check. But what can they guarantee? Make the 100 dials. Have the 15 conversations. If you don't have the 15 conversations, you had 10 and you made 100 dials, guess what? Make 20 more dials. If success equals inputs, it becomes so much easier to have the added benefit of the outputs of the outcome that you want. Okay, I'm off my soapbox.
Because I want to follow up on this because this is how accurate and true what Sam is saying. Some people know this about me, some people don't. I do high ticket sales, right? I've become a high ticket closer. It's a skill I never had before getting into entrepreneurship. A few years ago, October 2019, when I started this whole journey, I'd never done anything of sales, negotiating, any of that stuff. And so when I would go to sales conversations, I would struggle immensely. And what would happen is every sales conversation I had looked different because I was constantly molding myself to be a different person, depending on who I was talking to, depending on how I was feeling that day. And as you can imagine, I wasn't having a lot of success. I wasn't closing a lot of deals. I wasn't contracting a lot of clients. I wasn't contracting a lot of properties, none of that. And when it started to shift was when I started to learn a process and I started to adopt the process. I started to adopt the framework and recognizing that every call and every conversation I had needed to lead up to me asking certain questions. And so everything about the sales conversation was now about, can I get these 3 to 5 questions answered? And would you know it, if all I focused on was getting those 3 to 5 questions answered, naturally the conversation progressed towards a sale. Almost like clockwork. It almost like people were closing themselves in front of me. And at some point I got to the place of saying, I don't even really view myself as a salesperson because when I follow this process, I'm more of a paperwork facilitator because they are selling themselves if I ask the proper questions. And so it became about following the process, and that process started to produce a lot of success for me. The inputs, I worried about the inputs. The output that I desired was, of course, I want to go and get a new client. Of course, I want to close deals, but trusting the inputs, operating and working on the right inputs. And so even when we're here and we're looking at this value ladder, what are we looking at? We're looking at, well, what sort of inputs are you doing? Are you doing implementation inputs or are you doing communication inputs? Depending on those inputs, your output is predetermined. You will not be able to outperform your outputs. You won't be able to create new results unless you dial in on this. And so I love this, Sam. Like this, you're probably one of those people that I talk to the most that reminds me about inputs and outputs. That reminds me to look and say, what inputs are you doing? And we want to remind everybody on this call right now, everyone listening, oh, what just happened?
Oh, no.
Oh, I know what happened. So hey, let me switch this back up. So real quick, I'm going to have to get my iPad back on. I'm using Zoom to share my computer screen because I don't know any other way to be able to get the whiteboard on. And apparently Zoom says you're in a meeting with nobody. So loser, 40 minutes are up and we're kicking you out of this meeting because no one's talking. All right. So
okay, so he's gonna be back on it. So here's one thing that I want to highlight because guys, if you guys look at implementer versus unification versus communicator, is that those 3 evolutionary steps, they're all predicated on one simple thing. They actually all have one connective tissue that's attached between all 3 of them. You know what that is? Your ability to communicate with the people directly underneath you. And you're absolutely back. It's like with an implementer, right? It's your time. It's your physical. You are paying with your physical life force, your time, your energy, your muscle, your labor. Now, the next level is the unifier, a manager, a director who is communicating to 4, 5, 6, 10 people to do all of that work, communicating and basically having them do it. You're increasing your leverage, right? Maybe 1x, 5x, 10x, whatever it is. And then with communication, you then drastically increase your leverage capacity. And the reason why is now you're not talking to 5 people or 10 people. You're potentially talking to 100. You're potentially talking to 500 or 1,000 or 10,000. So freaking huge, dude.
Yep. And at that final level, right, with that imagination, I mean, inside real estate, this is where it gets like a little bonkers because inside of this imagination, this is ultimately, I'm going to say technology. All right, this is like creating software. For example, We're seeing nowadays BlackRock getting into the residential space, that never occurred. Like these hedge funds never got into the residential space, but why are they doing it now? It's because we have the technology that can gather the data for them so that they can look at properties and buy deals that they've never been able to do. So on the backs of this, you've got companies that are the companies like InvestorLift that popped onto the scene that were able to create opportunity for these larger players and change the way real estate's being done. And guess what? That company is already over $1 billion valuation because of technology, because they're fundamentally changing the way real estate is being done. If you are still trying to dispo deals the old way, right? If you're still out there trying to put up, Facebook posts to move your deals, you're struggling right now. Like that's just the honest truth. You are struggling to move deals in comparison to someone like Sam and their team that is using the highest level of InvestorLift, that took the time to go and get that software, and now they're doing it at a higher level. InvestorLift benefits at a massive level, becoming $1 billion industry, becoming $1 billion company by changing the way the game is fundamentally played.
Marlon, oh my God, dude. This shit's so good. Okay, so I have to say this. When you want to play them, guys, by the way, 100K to 100 million with communication, right? Investors can land here, right? Good business owners who have active income machines like flipping, wholesaling, lending, whatever. If you really want to get into the space of creating businesses and scaling businesses that can be sold at giant multipliers, huge multipliers, right? Imagination is like 100% the golden ticket. It is I would argue, the hardest one. I would argue the most selective, the most rare. Honestly, the people who can play ball all day, every day in that rung of the ladder, there's something unique about those people. There is something special. You know Rob Wensley. You've got to spend time with him. You've been in Puerto Rico at his place. You know that there's something unique about him as a human being. There's something like that. People like him are absolutely, there's some divine intervention there. But the reality is, guys, one thing that every imagination, right, answer, problem, like in business, all we're doing is solving problems. You want to solve the problem of making a hamburger, you hire implementers who flip freaking burgers. You want to solve the problem of having too many burgers, too many burger flippers, and some of them don't show up to work, and you don't want to handle it. What do? You hire a unifier who's the freaking manager of the place, right? You want to scale it up. Cool. Now you have, in the communication side, we didn't even talk about this, but this is where most influencers also land too, is in the communication kind of stage. And they typically don't develop much after that. Right. And we see people in the communication lane who freaking can make 50 million a year. Don't get me wrong. They crush. But the people who can get to that imagination section, it's guys who understand all of the rungs of the ladder underneath them, and they take it one step further and they go after the biggest freaking problems to solve. And Marlon, you hit the nail on the head. In order for Rob Wensley to go and solve the biggest problem, right, in terms of dispositioning, like we have the MLS for on market, but we don't have anything off market, like truly at the end of the day. So what did Rob do? He wanted to solve that gigantic problem that doesn't only affect America. You know this. It affects other countries on earth. What did he need? He needed as much freaking data as possible. And like, guys, I'm telling you this right now as someone who is like, I am very visionary and I'm understanding this more and more and more. The guy who wins the imagination race is the guy who has the most data. That is it. Like, Marlon, do you know why Google is freaking unbeatable in search engines? Is Google the only search engine on earth?
No, not at all.
No, there's tons. There's more coming up every 5 minutes. I have a friend, love them, and they want to create a search engine. That's like their goal for the next 2 years. And I had to sit them down. I'm like, what are you doing? You have no ability to capture on market share. And the problem is there's hedge fund sponsored search engines that have as much data as possible. The reason why Google's winning it is Google has been collecting data for the last 20 years when it comes down to search engines, right? So the problem is, even though someone else can show up, someone else who may have a more brilliant, unique human mind than the likes of like a Bill Gates type or whoever's in charge, I'm forgetting the name of the CEO of Google, but whoever's the CEO of Google, someone may come along who actually has a better, more in tune, more innovative brain, but they're still not going to be able to take the crown from Google. Why? Because Google has 20 years of data. And this, Marlon, I love this because no one's ever talked about this. I've talked to Rob Wensley about this at length. Do you guys know there's like 3 to 5 other Dispo platforms that are like Dispo softwares that are launched every week competing with InvestorLift? Guys, I run a Dispo shop. Okay. I know all those companies. Half of them reach out to me because, like, Sam, you throw master classes. We want to sponsor you. We want to put you on our website. They want me to like help push them. And I know this. None of them, guys, you will not be able to list one Dispo platform who said they were going to come up, disrupt the monopoly that InvestorLift has. There's not a single one that's lasted. The reason why is even if they get the amount of data that, like, you know, millions of data points, billions of data points, it doesn't matter. Rob Wensley's been doing it exponentially year over year over year over year. And the pace that they're moving, you can't catch up. You just cannot catch up. Like, unless freaking Google shows up and tries to do disposition softwares, like, you can't. The guy with the most data wins. Funny enough, and I promise I'll get out. I'm done after this one. This is why Elon Musk is dominating. Alex Hormozi talks about this. Sometimes it's not the guy who's been around the longest. It's the guy who does it the best who's going to win. Unless the person, it doesn't matter if you're better than someone else, if they have 30 years of data that you just never have and can never catch up to. And so what Elon Musk did is there are other electric car companies, okay? Mercedes does electric cars. BMW does electric cars. A lot of them, Chevy even has electric cars that have self-driving. You guys know an Escalade, a big-ass Escalade drives itself now? It's called Super Cruise. And according to a lot of people who've used it, like, I remember Ryan Pineda even talks about this. Even he said he felt it was better than Tesla's autopilot. Is Chevy and is the Cadillac Escalade going to take market share away from the freaking Model 3 or the Model S or the Model X or the Model Y or anything Tesla's doing? No, because Tesla had the foresight to put 10 million cars, 20 million, I don't know how many cars, let's say 10 million cars across the country in different terrains, different times, different geographic areas, different socioeconomic industries, right? All those cars were gathering data to a centralized hub where they were processing data. So in the course of the last 10, 15 years that Tesla's been in the game, it doesn't matter because they have a century's worth of data that no one can catch up to now. It is in business resale, in enterprise value, we call this a competitive moat. So, okay, I'm done. Shut me up.
Yeah.
Keep going.
No, dude, I think that's super fascinating, valuable for people because everything you said is true. And now I don't want people to be discouraged because they're thinking like, well, crap, Sam, you're telling me I can never play with the big boys because they have created this literal moat of just greatness that I cannot even begin to cross. But like, here's the beautiful thing. Imagination is one of those things that it's an infinite supply. You can gather all the ideas that your mind can ever muster. And guess what? After you take everything you want from the land of imagination, there's still more. Like you can
oh my God, that's so good.
It's abundant by nature. And so the reason I drew this circle down here is because this circle is what I want people to understand. It's split in half because every answer has a problem. Every problem has an answer. And whatever problem you go after, you are going to get its equal and equivalent of an answer on the opposite side. Or I should say better than an answer, right? Because we don't want to just get answers. We want a reward, a result. And so if you want a big reward, right? If I want big reward, I can't go after small problems, right? Like this does not work. That's not the formula. Instead, I've got to go after big problems. Effectively being able to target, and this is how you can start to use your imagination and understand, well, what is a big problem that if you solve, will create the big result you're looking for. Because effectively, I'm just going to use something totally out there right now. If someone comes up for the cure for cancer, that person's an instant trillionaire. Or like if you cure that, you're an instant trillionaire. If someone figures out how to get somebody from New York to LA in 20 minutes, that person is a trillionaire. Because they are solving a major problem. The bigger the problem you solve, the bigger the results. If you want to look for big problems, here's what I would suggest. And this isn't for everybody. Some people, this isn't going to be for you, but you could do kind of what Robert was done. Robert looked around and said, well, what are the biggest players, the people who have the most amount of money? What do they view as problems right now? And he looked for a problem that affected people who were playing the game at the biggest level, at the highest level, at the highest scale. And he said, I'm going to go solve their problem. This is also something Ryan Serhant figured out. The dude from $1 Million Listing. If you ever get the opportunity, he's a phenomenal guy. So he's a traditional real estate agent. He invests in property himself, but his traditional thing, he goes out, he sells multi-million dollar, $100 million units in New York, in Brooklyn, in Long Island, just absolutely crushes it. Phenom. And he mentioned that when he was getting started in his career, he had this epiphany of realizing, wait a second, did you know that rich people have all the same problems as broke people? But rich people pay more? And so by nature of the problem belonging to a wealthier person, the same problem became big. Because big and small, these are scales. These are reference. And what do I mean by scale and reference? If I got this bucket right here, this is bucket A. Is bucket A big or small? People might say, well, it's a pretty small bucket, right? What if I do this? I draw bucket B. Now bucket A is absolutely small and bucket B is absolutely big, right? So bucket B is a big bucket. What if I do this? I draw bucket C. Bucket B just became a small bucket. It's all relative. So these problems that we're solving, they're relative based on who has them. Look for people doing big things and solve their problems. And as far as you're concerned, it's the same amount of work to solve a big problem as it is to a small problem, as it is worrying about bucket A when it looks like this, or worrying about bucket B when it looks like this, or worrying about bucket C when it looks like this. It's all relative to what your focus is on.
Marlon, is it fair to say that most new people, right? Most new people, and I'm generally an extremely ambitious person. I think that most new people would generally like, hey, bucket C right now, maybe I'm not ready for that. That's okay. Like that is okay. The whole point of the value ladder is as you grow yourself in your personal development, your skill sets, your ability to communicate and manage and direct other people and direct economy. You know what's going to happen, guys, as you level up the value ladder? You develop these things called, you unlock economies of scale. And when you start unlocking economies of scale, what ends up happening is you earn the right to solve bigger problems, and bigger problems will start being thrown at you, whether you realize it or not. And that's the cool thing. I love Rob Wensley. A lot of people, they tend to forget that Rob Wensley was one of the biggest wholesalers in the country before he really launched Investor Lift and launched the platform. So he had already mastered the implementation, the unification, and a level of communication, right? Actually, probably a strong one. He was a 7-figure a month wholesaler. And then he earned the right to solve a problem that was so big because his skill sets, right, and his experience backed him to do that. He wasn't like, he didn't just graduate college like, cool, I'm just going to, launch a revolutionary software. He had a bunch of other things that helped him develop skill sets and helped him climb the value ladder until he was ready to tackle a gigantic imagination issue. And so it's like, this is huge, bro. I freaking love this. And guys, like, make no bones about it. I think Marlon, I think you and I think we both agree that we both spend the majority of our time still in the communication kind of evolution right now. And I think something that you and I are trying to get better at is opening up our own minds, our own brains to whether it's applicable or not, that the imagination value rung is there. And sometimes, like you and I have had this conversation where we understand a lot of these business principles, a lot of these business models. We understand how to actually, like, how they all work, the uniqueness of it, like everything. We get it, but we just may not have something right now in front of us that is that $1 trillion idea, is that $1 trillion problem. So what do we do, guys? It doesn't mean that we stop playing the game. It doesn't mean that we drop out of the game. Well, I can't become a trillionaire right now because I don't have, the net, like I can't invent Zillow because I don't have that idea yet, right? Zillow's already there. I don't know what else. What do, guys? You work on your skill sets. You develop all these other things and you master them. Because I love this, man. And someone said this, and it's not the first time I've heard it, but it landed with me. Success is a result of when proper preparation meets opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the $1 billion idea can come to you, but you may not be able to execute on it unless you've developed yourself enough. And so what I love about guys like Marlon is he preaches, especially in his high performance coaching, is that, like, yes, you can want to become a billionaire, but it's not going to happen overnight. There will be a series of opportunities along the way that what we want to do is want to prep you to be able to hammer those. And I was I was talking to someone I greatly admire, a 9-figure entrepreneur, I'm sure soon to be 10, Steve Harward, who's the owner of PCS. And he connects me with this amazing human being. And they basically tell me that, we're going over each other's lives. And guys, like me and Marlon are young. Marlon and I were like in second grade during the 2008, collapse of real estate. Like it wasn't a thing for us. And then during COVID, I wasn't even in entrepreneurship. So I couldn't handle it. I couldn't take advantage of it. Throughout life, guys, there's like these quarter moments where an amazing, life-changing, trajectory-changing opportunity comes. And then have you noticed, like, bro, when Bitcoin first popped off, you and I weren't like in the game. We also didn't have $100,000 to drop on Bitcoin. So what are we doing right now? We're getting ready for the next thing. We're making sure we're capable, we're able, we're available, we're capitalized to be able to execute on the next thing. So I love that. Mark it. Wow. Mark that up. That is so good. So good. Okay, focus. What do we got to focus on, bro?
Yep. So this is just it. Like, I just want to, what you just said. Imagine down here, these are your levels, right? And it just keeps on going and going and going. Don't be upset if a person is showing you level 8 and you feel like, well, I'm only on level 2. Be on level 2. Be where you are. Be where you are fully. Fuck everyone else. Like, let your barometer, let your I don't give a fuck muscle work out. Let it go and ignore where everyone else is at temporarily. Be inspired that there's a level 8. Be aware that there's a level 8 and a level 9 and a level 10 and that there are more levels to grow. And then bring yourself back, get your hands in the dirt, and be okay with being on level 2. And I'm going to say this. If you've ever found yourself, and I'm talking to like Marlon right now, I'm talking to myself. So you guys are just listening to me talk to me. If you've ever found yourself on level 7 and you temporarily see that you bump back to level 5, be where you are and move back up. Keep going forward. But I've seen this happen with people where they'll get bumped down and life throws them due to market shifts, due to bad decisions, due to bad partnerships, due to whatever. They went from being at a higher level, level 9, and now life has thrown them in a place where they're at level 4, but they are still showing themselves as if they were at level 9. They're still making decisions privately in their heart as if they're at level 9, but the reality is they're on level 4, they're on level 3, and they're not acknowledging the stage they're on right now and doing the things necessary to get them back to level 9 and beyond. And so focus to me means be where you are and do the work that where you are requires. So yeah, just wanted to put that out there because we got 3 minutes left to go. I just wanted to end this on a shout out to Leo, end this on a note where people understand wherever you are in your journey right now, it's okay, but focus, right? It's going to require you to do the work. And maybe next week we'll talk about what people need as necessary in order to progress to the next levels, right? Regardless of where people are at, like give them the foundation on, hey, regardless on if you're at level 2, regardless on if you're at level 10, These are the fundamentals. And if you ever find yourself feeling stuck, this is how you get unstuck, because you can get stuck at any level. In fact, people get stuck at every level. This is why continued education, this is why mentorships, this is why masterminds, this is why these things exist, is to get people unstuck at their next level. So maybe next week we'll share a foundation on how to get unstuck.
Huge. Dude, so good. Last thing I want to say is this. It's actually a quote I'm totally ripping off from a friend of ours, Leo Valentino, and it's something that he put on his Instagram story that kind of stuck out to me. And he said, own lane, own pace, own race. It's your own lane. It's your own pace. It's your own race. You stick to that. You can't get lost. It's just the way it is. Marlon, that was huge. Like a huge, I love, my personal favorite episodes are the ones where you lead it, man. That was phenomenal. People got to pay some dues, bro.
Dude, that's funny, because my personal favorite episodes are the ones when you lead and I sit back with a notebook and I take notes.
I'll bring out the iPad next week.
Yo, if you guys got value from tonight's episode, here's what I need. What up, Jade? Here's what I need. I need you to first off smash that like button on this video. Every video that you watch that you get value from, we need you to smash that like button. This way the YouTube algorithm can begin to push this out to more people who are like us, right? We are resonating on a frequency right now. We are on a vibration right now, and I want to find more people on this vibration. I want to find more people on this frequency. I want to find more of the Jades and the Carloses and the Zanes of the world and the Leos and the Javiers of the world. I want more of you guys. So please smash that like button. Second, I need you to share this YouTube video with a friend. If you got value from this, if it resonated with you, if at any point you were like, this is helpful, this allowed me to see something new, this put to word something I've always felt but hadn't known how to say, share this video out with a friend. This is how we grow as a community. And finally, leave your thoughts in the comments. Like, I want to know what you thought about today's episode. I want to have a conversation with you so that we can ultimately make this show more about you. We got some big things coming in the future. I'm excited to announce some special surprises that will be happening, but maybe we'll announce that on next week's episode. But guys, we appreciate you all as always. Next week, we will be back at the same time, Tuesday, 5 o'clock PST.